Hey Canucks fans, it's Sunday. That means it's time for another Ask Me Anything. I'm Clay Emo. I'm at Canuck Clay on Twitter. I'm at Clay Emo on Instagram. I'm the founder of the Jael CPC, the Good Looking Canucks Positivity Club, and this is my Canucks take, all in one take. It's Clay's Canucks commentary for Sunday, May the 31st. This is where you get Canucks insight that's positive and timely. Programming note tonight, because it's Sunday, 10 p.m. my weekly live stream. So what we've been building up to for a few weeks now. You're gonna actually witness me playing NHL 20 for better for worse, playing with Sean, playing with Jake. We're gonna play a ones match, then the winner rests. Well, the two losers have to play in a threes, and then the winner of that will take on the original winner in either a threes or a fives. Not sure which one we're gonna do. Want to make sure it's entertaining. I won't be necessarily streaming it properly like on Twitch or anything like that, rather just natively filming the screen so you can hear me, Sean, and Jake interact with one another. So join me. It should be a lot of fun tonight. That's at 10 o'clock on YouTube, and you can see basically what the hype or the non-hype has been about, how bad I am at NHL 20. Crazy time right now. Not only do we have coronavirus, but there's so much unrest and so many sad things going on in the United States. So I hope that you are staying safe, that you're staying healthy, and that you're taking care of your loved ones and of yourselves. So let's talk about today. Let's talk about our weekly Ask Me Anything. For the first time, I actually solicited questions on both Twitter and YouTube, and I'm glad that I did because naturally it doubled the number of questions I have. So I have about 7 or 8 really good questions today that I'm gonna address. So let's get right into it. I'll do the YouTube ones first. So Patrick Malari says this: with the draft lottery, there was a very high chance the bottom 8 team gets a lottery pick. If this is the case, all 8 teams have the same odds of that pick. So do you think this will promote tanking in the qualifying round? Really good question, Patrick, and I want to address a couple things before I get to my answer. We heard, and I tweeted this yesterday, that as I suspected, the NHL is treating the qualifying round as not a playoff round, which makes a lot of sense. That qualifying round knocks out 8 teams, so you get to your true 16, and then that becomes your actual playoffs. So this qualifying round will not be considered a playoff round, and that way we know, for instance, a very real implication: Vancouver, Minnesota playing against each other, Vancouver's traditional draft pick going to New Jersey via Tampa Bay. If the Canucks win their qualifying round series, then they are deemed to make the playoffs, right? And that means that pick will go to New Jersey. If the Canucks lose their qualifying series, that means they do not make the playoffs, and we get to keep our 2020 first rounder, but that means the 2021 first rounder has to go to New Jersey. So again, many of you guys knew that already. You guys know that's what I've been talking about for the past couple of weeks, but it was confirmed by the NHL this week, and that's a real implication of this series. Of the qualifying round overall. Do I think, and lastly, we also know that the way the lottery is going to work, I've talked about this a few times, the 2-2-3, 2 parts, 2 groups of teams, 3 lotteries. Basically, if any of the placeholder, the qualifying teams win the lottery, then that means the 8 teams that lose will have at least a chance to win one of the top 3 spots. I've talked about that a couple times in my vlogs already. So Patrick, your question is, do you think this will promote tanking in the qualifying round? I don't. I really don't, because I think the benefit of winning that, winning the first round and then making it truly to the playoffs, having some momentum, knocking off a really good team, I still think that the benefit to that is bigger than the benefit to losing, especially intentionally, and then having a 12.5% chance to win whatever lottery you're going for, first, second, or third. Now, when I say that 12.5 out loud, that sounds pretty good, right? That's a 1 in 8 chance. But remember, it might not be for the first round pick. It might be for the first, second, or third, depending on how the lottery goes on June 26th, how part 1 goes. So I could see where some teams might say, well, if we don't have a chance at all, why bother trying to win? And we might get even knocked out in the round of 16 or the round of 8. And then why not go for one of these picks instead? But I think as a professional, those hockey players will not want to lose. There's pride, right? You don't want to do all this work, getting back into shape, training camp, isolation, quarantine, all these things, just to get knocked out in 3 games. So I actually think that the benefit to winning the first round, the qualifying round, and then having some momentum. You never know. Imagine if Chicago knocks off Edmonton and then they get the number 4 seed, like a Dallas. I could see Chicago beating Dallas, and boom, they're already in the final 8 now. So I could see that happening. And I could see a team that maybe from the bottom, 9, 10, 11, 12 seed, maybe upsetting the qualifying team they play against. Hopefully it's not Minnesota beating Vancouver and then going on and making a deep run in the playoffs. And that's more exciting. That builds more money, more revenue, although I'm not sure how they're going to figure that out with these hub cities or host cities. But I still think that from that standpoint, the pride and the chance to advance and actually win a cup this season, 24 teams have a chance instead of 16 in theory. I still think that overrides the temptation to tank, but I'm sure that sentiment is out there as well. Harsimran Parmer says, will you preview some other playoff series outside the Vancouver Canucks series? I probably will, but I admit it's kind of a weird thing. I find that my videos, when I don't talk about the Canucks, I find that my NHL general videos don't do that well. Maybe people out in YouTube land don't consider me that knowledgeable or that much of an expert or that much insight in general NHL matters. Obviously, I beg to differ, but I have recognized that anytime I try and branch out away from the Canucks, my videos don't do as well. Now, it's not always about hits, it's not always about views or whatever, or likes or comments. So I think naturally I will still be inclined to do some quick playoff previews, but maybe not to the same depth, or maybe I won't devote an entire day to one series, although I'll be looking for content for sure, but I've been finding ways to do it. But yeah, so I likely will, but I probably won't emphasize them a lot, or maybe I'll combine a couple series into one video, so to speak. But I'd like to do that because I do understand, I am knowledgeable about the rest of the NHL, but it's interesting. I find that my YouTube videos, when they're more Canucks-centric, do a lot better. Maybe that's just simply people know me as a Canucks guy, and people also can go to other people for their NHL knowledge or NHL insight, which is fine with me. Having said that, I'm really intrigued by the Calgary-Winnipeg matchup in the West, 8-9, and I'm really intrigued by the Pittsburgh-Montreal 5-12 series in the East. So, and of course, I'm curious to see if Toronto wins their first round, that they might get Boston in the second round. So a lot of crazy things can happen, but to answer your question, I likely will preview them, but I won't emphasize them, if that makes a lot of sense. Maestro says, do you think Eichel will request a trade? Which team has a chance to get him and he wants to win now? So yeah, Maestro, I saw this quote. I know Lego Rocks did a video about this yesterday, about how upset Jack Eichel is right now, speaking out. Rasmus Ristolainen's been saying the same thing for even longer. Buffalo, they're a bad team. They've had a long streak of no playoffs. They didn't even make the playoffs, so they're one of the 7 worst teams this year. It's interesting, when you look at their team, they have a lot of money coming off the books this summer. A lot of free agents that are coming off, expensive guys, and a couple others that are going to be around for a while that they got to figure out what to do. Like Kyle Okposo is their version of Louis Eriksson. So they have some money coming off and some money that's sticking on. But yeah, it's tough. And I've heard Ristolainen say stuff like, the future is bright, but he wants to see the future in his lifetime kind of thing. So do I think that he will request a trade? He might not do it formally, but he's kind of put the ball in management's court, so to speak, in that he's come out publicly and said how frustrated he is, how angry he is. So now it's up to the Buffalo management, Jason Botterill and the team, to make improvements to that team. Otherwise, yeah, I could see him requesting a trade. So I don't see him requesting a trade right now. I could be proven wrong, but I think if he doesn't see marked improvement in the team this summer, at least on paper, I could see a trade request before the next season gets going, and that would be crazy. Any team would love to have him. He's got an expensive contract, right? Still 6 more years at $10 million a year. So you're gonna have to find a team that has has salary cap space. I don't know which kind of teams have that right now, but obviously the team that would trade from would have to ship out a lot of money as well to make it work. So there are a lot of teams that would want a top line player like that. But yeah, do I think he requests a trade? I say no, not right now, but I think it could come as soon as this fall if he doesn't like what happens for Buffalo in the offseason. Great question, and that was from Maestro. Uhex says this, do you think Ryan Beach might take over as amateur scouting director of the Canucks? Do you believe he would be a good fit? I like Ryan a lot. When he was with Canucks Army, when he was doing other things, I would speak to him a lot. We both wrote a bit for Daily Hive at the same time, so I have a huge respect for Ryan. Very nice guy, he obviously knows his stuff. He got hired last summer as mostly video analytics for the Canucks, but then obviously as part of their draft team, I presume. So could I see him being the amateur taking over? I'd say not right now. I think he's a little young right now still, and maybe not as experienced in the field as some of those other scouts, but I do think he would be a great amateur scouting director. I don't know if they're actually going to promote someone. I think Benning said they might, but they might just increase responsibility for everyone else. Who knows? But I don't think so. I don't think it's going to happen this year, but I do think that Ryan Beach would make a great amateur scouting director. He's smart, he's quick, he's a good communicator, he knows his stuff, and it would be a great story, you know, homegrown boy doing that. So I would love to see that happen. I just don't know if it's going to happen this year, but that's a great question. Thank you for that. All right, that's 4 from YouTube. Now we have 4 from Twitter. Jael Escape Reality says, Clay, glad you got my handle right last time. Yeah, it only took me a week. The Athletic Vancouver had an article where Podkolzin, NHL comparable, was a more defensively responsible Buchnevich. Thoughts? Not a Buchnevich fan, so not terribly exciting to me. Jael, I know exactly the article you're talking about. I read it as well, and I had the exact same reaction when I saw, Pavel, I can't even say his name now, Buchnevich. That doesn't sound like, I don't really see him as a dynamic player. I thought Podkolzin at number 10 overall would be better. Buchnevich was picked third round, so 75th overall. But then I looked at his stats, and in 4 years, he's had like 3 of his 4 seasons have been really good. In fact, this season, he had 48 points in 68 games, so he's a 50-point guy. So if you're telling me that Podkolzin, I don't know about peaking, but at least is going to start off in his first 3 or 4 years as a 50-point guy, I'll take that, actually. I will. But it didn't dawn on me until I looked at Buchnevich's stats, because he's had I think he had a 45-point year, then a 39, and then a 48-point year, all where he never played all 82 games. He played in the 65, 69, 68, you know, high 60 range. So I'll take that. I'll take 50 points in Podkolzin's 3rd or 4th season for sure. So I don't mind that comparable, but it wasn't till I saw Buchnevich's stats where I was okay with it. I had the same reaction as you, Jael. So I think I'll be okay with it if that indeed pans out, but I hope Podkolzin's ceiling is a bit higher than Buchnevich, to be frank with you. X Laura at Canucks 181 says, if we beat Minnesota, how deep do you think we'll go? I think if we beat Minnesota, we have a shot to go at least another round. I like to say that quite confidently. Like we're lined up to play the number 2 seed. So whoever it is, St. Louis, Colorado, who's there right now, Vegas or Dallas, all 4 are going to be tough matchups. I like our matchup against St. Louis and Dallas actually better than I like our matchup against Colorado and Vegas. So I definitely think that the Canucks could actually, if they beat Minnesota and then they knock off the 2 seed, then really they'd be lined up, depending if they bracket or reseed. Then now you're in your final 4, and then in the conference, and you never know what can happen from there, right? So in the round of 16, we could beat, say a Colorado or a Dallas or whoever we end up playing. Then the round of 8, then we're in the final 4 in the conference type, and then basically it could be anything from there. So to answer your question, I do think that if we beat Minnesota, we could win our next round, the round of 16, the first true playoff round. But I'm not sure if we're going to go much further this year. I think our defense is a little weak. I think that our bottom 6 isn't that strong. But our top 6 and our goaltending, they could take us a long way. And the Canucks always start the season well, right? Every October, they do really well. So if you kind of compare that to starting up again in July or August, the start of a season, we could come out of the gates quite hot and surprise some teams. So I'd say if we beat Minnesota, we could probably win 1 more round, but I wouldn't put any more hopes past that, although I'd love to see them make a deep run, because why not this year out of any year? Great question. Mike Higashi at Hiroki Dude says, are you still working out? To which I replied, depends on your definition of working out. I'm still active, I'm still exercising. Right now I'm biking a lot, I'm playing tennis with the kids, and then I'm doing some home workouts 3 times a week. Well, I want to start that more intentionally starting tomorrow as June 1st. I always like to use the 1st of a month as a starting point. So yes, I am working out at home, doing some weights and a bit of cardio when I'm going bike riding, and then playing some tennis. And I bowled for the first time this weekend, so I'm excited to get back to bowling as well. So usually in the summer, I'm playing roller hockey and I'm playing softball. So those are the 2 things, especially the roller hockey, that really gets me going. Can't do that this year, so I'll have to make sure that I'm active in other ways. Thanks for asking, Mike, and I hope you're doing well. And lastly, Tessa Blue, I wasn't sure if I was going to say this out loud, but her handle is, or the handle is Testicle76, and it says best topping on a cheeseburger. Very, very fitting that you asked that today, Tessa, because we just had cheeseburgers for lunch, and I'm very plain on my hamburgers, but I love raw onions. I don't know if my wife does or anyone else in my family does. Maybe they're keeping a natural 2-meter radius from me and without even physical distancing. But yeah, I love raw onions. my burger today, I had raw onions, I had cheese, of course, I had lettuce, tomato, and bacon. So pretty simple. I don't put a lot of funky stuff on there, but raw onions is my favorite. Whenever I order from a restaurant or even somewhere at McDonald's, I always have them put raw onions, extra raw onions on my burger. So there we go. Thanks everyone, that was a lot of fun. 8 really good questions ranging from food choices to prospects to playoffs. So I love talking about this kind of thing, and I think we're gonna be talking about more of these kind of things as the year progresses. So leave a comment below. There's no really question of the day today because I answered 8 of your questions. Maybe you can talk to me about any of my answers. You can put it down in the comments. I'd love to get your reaction and react and reply to your comments as always. But thanks again for watching. It went a little long today, but that's okay. I didn't want to skirt or cheap out on any of these answers. So I hope those answers were to your satisfaction. So leave a comment. I love to react and reply. Subscribe if you like to. Like this video if you like to. Join us tonight, 10 o'clock, right here on YouTube for the big NHL 20 showdown with Sean and with Jacob. In the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves and of each other. Have a great day. God bless, and go Canucks go.